Hi everybody, Dylan here. As you can tell, I am under the sea once again. Welcome to Windsor Kids Online. So good to have you guys here. Now, what we're going to do this week is we're going to look at another creature of the sea. If you've been following our series, you know there's a reason why I'm geared up in all this. Now, and why I'm obviously under the sea. Our series is called Jesus Under the Sea, and each week we look at one object or one creature under the sea and relate it back to a message about Jesus. Now, before we get into this, last week we actually learned about coral reef and how big the kingdom was and how God invites all of us to his big kingdom. This week, we are going to look at fish. Now, it may seem pretty normal, but trust me, they're anything but. They're very fantastic creatures. Before we continue, let's go with our highlights. What's been really awesome this week? What we're really excited to share. Now, why don't you pause the video at this stage and tell your parents, tell your friends, tell your siblings what you're really just excited about this week for. Maybe it's something that's coming up, or maybe it's something that's been before. After you unpause it, we'll join Patsy and we'll see what she's got in plan for us, okay? Thanks, guys. I'll see you back soon.
Well, now we've come to one of my favorite times of the week, and that is celebrating birthdays. So if any of you have had a birthday this week, we just want to say happy birthday to you. We hope you had an amazing day. And you know what? We'd love to hear all about your birthday. So you can email us, so you can send us a message on Facebook. We'd even love to see what presents you got or the cake you had. I'm sure it was delicious. So if you've had a birthday, once again, happy birthday. And you know what? Why don't you pause this video and ask your family to sing happy birthday to you again? We can never be sung to enough, right? So we're carrying on talking about the ocean today and all the sea creatures there. We've talked a lot about some of the giant creatures, some of the smaller ones. We know that there are whales of all shapes and sizes and sharks of all shapes and sizes. There are fun-loving, quirky, talkative dolphins and giant, scary saltwater crocodiles. There are sea turtles and sea lions and deadly sea snakes. There are crazy monsters of the deep where we could never ever get to. Animals like narwhals and the mysterious, elusive giant squid. There are also little creatures everywhere on the ocean floor, the ones that live in the coral, like we learned last week. The lobsters, the scallops, the clams, the oysters, the mussels, the shrimps, the crab, all those delicious seafoods. In between the huge animals and those small sea animals, we get millions and millions of fish. There are big fish and little fish, tasty fish like red snapper, and deadly fish like barracuda. There are famous fish like the clownfish from Nemo, and there are less famous fish like the hoki. Have you ever heard of a hoki? Well, you may not have heard it, but if you've eaten a fillet of fish from McDonald's, you've eaten hoki. You can even ask your parents. I'm pretty sure they've cooked hoki for you before. Do you know that just like you guys go to school, when a whole lot of fish live together, they're called a school of fish, which is basically a fancy word for a whole lot of fish. Fish swim together to search for food, but they also swim together for safety. You see, when fish swim together really, really tightly or bunched up, they look like a huge big fish from a distance. So sharks and other predators who wouldn't even think twice about chasing down a single little fish, they get quite scared, so they don't go after the huge big animal that they think is there. Fish depend on one another for protection. So if a fish wants to stay alive, they swim with the school. Any fish who goes alone or leaves the herd or the school, swims against the flow, only brings attention to themselves and makes themselves very vulnerable to predators. We all know, as humans, it's our tendency to follow the crowd as well. But you know that God sometimes calls us to stand out from the crowd. For example, there are many things that the world accepts as being okay, but it's not okay in God's book. You may hear people say, it's totally okay to cheat on a test, it's just one test. Or you could tell a lie, it's just a tiny little white lie. But people who do these things are not doing what God is asking of them. Now, we know that we all sin because we're human. We all do bad things. And that's why it's so cool to have a God who forgives us and loves us no matter what. But you see, God asks us to go against the flow, to stand out. And you may be thinking, did you just tell me that it's dangerous to stand out? Well, yes, for a fish it is. But see, for us, we've got the greatest fighter on our side. So when we go against the flow, we have God standing beside us and around us and in front of us, protecting us. We don't need a school of fish friends to go with us. We just need God. And we'll talk more about that later. We'll look at Daniel, who was a man who went against the flow and God protected him. But for now, why don't you jump up, do some stretches, and let's join the worship team.
Hi guys, we're going to worship this morning. So we'll start with some stretches. So we'll reach up to the sky and then down to the ground. And then we'll stretch our arms, one arm and the other arm. And we'll do our legs, try and balance. And then the other leg. Oh, good job. And now we'll do some star jumps. And we'll jump into prayer position.
Alright, let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for today and that we can worship together even though we might not be able to be in contact with one another. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so the song that we're going to do this morning is One Way. And this song is all about how we should follow Jesus for the rest of our lives because his love is amazing.
Your feet, you're the only one I need. I turn to you and you are always there. In troubled times it's you I see. I put you first, that's all I need. I humble all I am, all to you. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. You're the only one, you're the only one, you're the only one that I could live for. You're the only one, you're the only one, you're the only one that I could live for. You were always, always there, every how and everywhere. The grace abounds so deeply within me. You will never ever change. Yesterday, today, the same. Forever till forever meets no end. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. Are you having fun? Well, what we're going to do now is we're all going to get down nice and low. That's it. How low can you go? And we're going to sing, you are the way, the truth, and the life. Come on, let me hear you. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you. We're living all for you. Up a bit higher. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you. We're living all for you. You are the way. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight for you.
Great worshiping, guys. I love it when you dance up and down so much. Really gets me in the mood for what we're going to do next, which is our game. But just before we do our game, why don't we have a look at our memory verse? We'll put the slide on screen right now. And actually, I need my glasses for this. Much better. Let's see what we've got for our memory verse. It's from Romans chapter 8, verse 39. You guys can say it with me if you like. It says, neither height nor depth nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Jesus Christ our Lord. Got a bit of a challenge for you guys start this week. Find a quiet space and whisper it really softly, that exact memory verse. And just to help us stick it just a little bit more, go outside and shout it out really loud. See how loud you can shout it. But you can shout it a lot louder than I can. Now it's on to our game. Now, over the last few weeks, we've been having a game that is revolving around the theme of finding Jesus under the sea. So a sea-themed game. So I think it's appropriate we call this game Fish or Not. Now, it's really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 7 sentences, all to do with fish, and you guys are going to have to guess if that sentence is true or not. Now, here's the catch. I'll say it, and then I'll give a few seconds, and then I'll give you the answer, basically, okay? I hope you guys are ready. Okay, here's the first fact. There are over 30,000, 3 and 4 zeros at the end, known species of fish. That's a lot of fish. Let's see if you guys can get it all right. Well, if you guess true, then you're absolutely right. There are 30,000 species of fish in the sea. Pretty cool. Here's the next one. Relative to their body size, fish have very large brains compared to most other animals. I wonder if that's true. Actually, you'll be surprised, but they're not. Fish have really tiny brains, and that's not a dig at fish, it's just how their bodies are made. Okay, here's another one. Fish are covered in scales, which are not often covered in a layer of slime. So when you pick up fish, it's not really slimy, is it? Well, if you guessed wrong, then that's absolutely right. Confusing, I know. So they actually are. They're covered in scales, but they're also covered in a layer of slime, which helps them swim faster. So there we go. Here's another one. Cleaner, smaller fish help out other fish by removing parasites and dead skin from their scales. It actually helps them clean them. Who knew fish was so clean? Well, if you guess true, then you're absolutely right. They absolutely do that. Yeah, some fish do that. You'll see some sucker fish actually attach them to big whales, in fact. That's a nice little lesson there about helping and sharing with one another. Now, this is a question, well, be very familiar to you if you've watched the other videos. So although jellyfish and crayfish have the word fish in their name, they aren't actually fish. That sounds true, but is it? Absolutely, it's absolutely true. Here's another fact, guys. Fish are actually vertebrate animals that live in the water. Now, vertebrate means that they've got a spinal cord surrounded by bone and cartilage. So basically, they've got a spine. Yeah? Absolutely. Well, so they're known as mammals. So all mammals have spines. They are indeed mammals. Here's the last one, and I hope you guys have got your thinking caps on. Fish don't have gills. I will not say anything further. I think you ought to know this one, but fish actually have gills. It's what allows them to breathe in the water. So the gills take in the water and extract the oxygen for them to breathe, and that's how they breathe. Awesome, guys. I hope you guys got 7 out of 7 for that one. I'm sure you did. You guys are all very smart. You guys have all got big brains, unlike fish, which we know. So there is a point to all of this. The point was to learn all about fish and how they swim in schools for protection. Fish need a lot of numbers to feel safe from big predators, but we only need one, and that's God. Now, before we head to Passe and begin our teach, I'd like us to look at our Bible story for today. Our story takes place in Daniel chapter 6, verse 6 to 27. Most of you would remember this as Daniel and the Den of Lions, or Dan and the Lion's Den. So I'd like to read that story out for you guys if you want to, if you'd like. It'd be really cool if you guys could grab your Bibles right now, and I'll read it along too. Okay, so we'll start at chapter 6 and we'll go forward. And the governors conspired together, and they went to the king and said, King Darius, live forever. We've convened your governors and all your leading officials and have agreed that the king should issue the following. For the next 30 days, no one is to pray to any god or mortal except you, O king. Anyone who disobeys will be thrown to the lion's den. Scary. Issue this decree, O king, and make it unconditional, as if written in stone, like all the laws of the Medes and the Persians. King Darius signed the decree. Now, when Daniel learned that the decree had been signed and posted, he continued to pray just as he had always done. His house had windows in the upstairs and that opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day, he knelt there in prayer, thanking and praising his God. The conspirators came and found him praying, asking God for help. They went straight to the king and reminded him of the royal decree that he had signed. Did you not, they said, sign a decree forbidding anyone to pray to any god or man except you for the next 30 days? And anyone caught doing so will be thrown to the lion's den. Absolutely, said the king, written in stone like all the laws of the Medes and the Persians. Then they said, Daniel, one of the Jewish exiles, ignores you, O king, and defies your decree. 3 times a day he prays. At this, the king was very upset and tried his best to get Daniel out of the fix he'd put him in. He'd worked at it the whole day long. But the conspirators were back. Remember, O king, it's the law of the Medes and the Persians that the king's decree can never be changed. The king carved and ordered Daniel be brought and thrown to the lion's den. But he said to Daniel, your God, to whom you are so loyal, is going to get you out of this. A stone slab was placed over the opening of the den. The king sealed the cover with his signet and the signet rings of all his nobles, fixing Daniel's fate. The king went back to his palace. He refused supper. He couldn't sleep. He spent the night fasting. And at daybreak, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. As he approached the den, he called out anxiously, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve so loyally, saved you from the lions? O king, live forever, said Daniel. My God sent his angel who closed the mouths of the lions so they wouldn't hurt me. I have been found innocent before God and also before you, O king. I've done nothing to harm you. When the king heard these words, he was happy. He ordered Daniel to be taken out of the den. And when he was hauled up, there wasn't a scratch on him. He had trusted his God. Then the king commanded the conspirators who had informed on Daniel to be thrown to the lion's den, along with their wives and kids. Before they hit the floor, the lions had them in jaws, tearing them to pieces. King Darius published this proclamation to every race, color, and creed on earth. Peace to you, abundant peace. I decree that Daniel's God shall be worshipped and feared in all parts of my kingdom. He is the living God, world without end. His kingdom never falls. His rule continues eternally. He is a savior and a rescuer. He performs astonishing miracles in heaven and on earth. He saved Daniel from the power of the lions. Wow. Well, there was a long scripture, but it was a very powerful one, guys. So remember that as Patsy explains the teach to us just a little bit more. And I'll see you guys afterwards. Thanks.
Thanks, Dylan. What an awesome story. Daniel in the Lion's Den was always one of my favorite stories. Maybe that's because I'm from Africa and I love seeing lions. Well, Daniel's enemies knew that he would never pray to another god, didn't they? They knew that he would go against the flow. So they came up with a plan and they asked the king to make a really unfair law so they could trap Daniel. So because of this law, when Daniel disobeyed and he prayed to God, he was arrested. And as punishment, he was dropped into a den of hungry lions. He was all alone. But was he alone? No, we know that he wasn't alone. We know that Daniel, who had swum against the tide, had God with him the whole time. Even though there was no one else standing with him, Daniel trusted God and God protected him. God was faithful to Daniel because Daniel stuck close to God. Now, why don't we go watch a video about Daniel in the lion's den? See you soon.
Stories of the Bible. Daniel in the Lion's Den. This is Daniel,
Oh, hey!
who was a Jewish man who was taken to Babylon when he was very young.
Yeah.
Daniel loved God and followed God's rules. He talked to God 3 times a day and asked God for help often. Daniel served in the Babylonian king's court for many years
Yeah, I know him.
and under many kings.
Hey, Daniel.
Daniel always proved himself to be more capable than all the other court officials.
That's you, huh? Thanks. Well, anytime.
Daniel was serving under King Darius, and because of his great abilities, the king made plans to place him in charge of the entire empire.
Wow, okay.
The other court officials searched for some fault in Daniel, but they couldn't find anything wrong with him. He was faithful, responsible, and completely trustworthy.
Wait.
The court officials realized the only way to get at Daniel would be to challenge his faith.
Come on.
So they went to King Darius
Excuse me, Your Majesty.
and advised him to make a law that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone except King Darius will be thrown into the lion's den.
I like it.
King Darius signed this law, and once a Babylonian king signed a law, it could not be overruled. When Daniel learned of this law, he went home and knelt down, as he always did, to pray in his room with the windows open towards Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he always had done, giving thanks to God and asking for his help. The officials went to Daniel's house and found him praying.
Gotcha.
They went to the king and reminded him of the law.
I remember.
Well,
Then they said that Daniel had been found praying to God 3 times a day.
What?
When the king heard this, he was very upset,
Get over here.
and he spent the whole day trying to think of a way to save Daniel.
wait, what?
By that evening, the court officials came back to the king and reminded him that no law signed by the Babylonian king could be overruled. So at last, the king gave orders for Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den. The king said to him, "May your God, who you serve faithfully, rescue you." Then the lion's den was sealed shut with Daniel inside. The king spent the night fasting and couldn't sleep. Then very early in the morning, the king hurried to the lion's den. He called out,
Hey, Daniel.
"Was your God able to rescue you from the lions?" And Daniel answered, "Long live the king! My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, for I have been found innocent in his sight." The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be taken out of the lion's den. Then the king ordered the men who had schemed against Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den as punishment. Daniel was safe. There was not a scratch on him, for he trusted in God.
What a great video. Explains things so easily. You know, we live in a world that is increasingly accepts sin as being okay. People are free to do what they want, and if anyone says they shouldn't, they're mocked. They're ridiculed. Anyone who dares to stand up and say no or speak out against our culture's design to do whatever they want instantly becomes a target. It's not easy to stand alone against the world, but at the end of the day, who do you trust? Do you trust a sinful world full of people who want to do whatever feels good? Are you going to trust people who cover their ears anytime someone says this is harmful, this is going to get someone hurt? Or are you going to trust the God who made you, who loves you, who sent his son to die for you? The older you get, the more pressure you're going to feel to follow along with the crowd that wants to rebel against God. You're going to meet people who think God is just a fairy tale. You're going to meet people who refuse to listen to anyone who doesn't agree with them. You're going to feel the current pulling you one way as everyone swims towards sin. Maybe you'll be fortunate enough to be surrounded by Christian friends. But even if you're not, you can still stand up for what's right. God will be your shelter and your protector. He will give you the courage you need to stand up and the strength to keep standing. People may insult you and ridicule you for what you believe. Don't be sad. Be glad, because they did the same things to Jesus. I doubt if any one of us will ever find ourselves standing at the edge of a pit of lions. I certainly hope not. But no matter what happens, we do not have to give in and swim with the world. We can stand up, swim against the flow, and make a stand. We don't need a crowd to stand up for God. If we have Jesus, one is the only number we need. And that really neatly brings us to our bottom line, the one takeaway that we want from this today. God is all the protection that we need. Let's say that one more time, and let's say it together this time. God is all the protection that we need. I always feel safe when I hear those words. What do you feel when you hear the words God is all the protection that we need? I encourage you this week to spend a few moments in reflection to discuss what maybe that means to you. We'll head over to Patsy now to see what our discipline of being a Christian is all about. Thanks, Patsy.
Thanks, Dylan. I love how true that is. You know what? Let's say that together again. Our bottom line is God is all the protection we need. I just love that. It's such a good reminder. Now, usually we try to practice a discipline of being a Christian every week. We know that spiritual disciplines are habits, practices, and experiences that help us as Christians to develop, grow, and strengthen our spiritual muscles. It's basically a workout for the soul. These include things like studying and fasting and worshiping and fellowship, rest, being generous, celebrating, serving, and taking communion. This week, we're going to look at something called humility. I'm sure some of you know what humility is, but just in case, I'll tell you that humility is being humble. It means valuing other people more than yourself and not doing things that are selfish. Humility is about being modest. It's about being respectful, and it's about putting other people before yourself. Gosh, those are some really big words, aren't they? But let's say, for example, that you are playing on your football team or your netball team and you score a goal. Now you could go, yay, me, I'm the greatest in the world. I did it all on my own. Well, it's good to be excited and celebrate, but how you celebrate makes the difference. If you could say, it was all about me, I did it all on my own, that's not very humble. But if you say, yay me, yay team, because we all know that when we're playing games, the only way that you can get that ball into that goal or that hoop is if you've got a whole team working together. So being humble means acknowledging that there are other people around you, people who help you get where you're going, that you can't do it on your own, that we need God, that we need other people that He gives to us. There are loads of ways that we can practice being humble. It could be as simple as saying thank you or please. It's about apologizing when we do something wrong, being able to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Why don't we each take a moment now and think about a way that we can show humility over this next week. You only need to choose one thing, because that's what practicing is all about. It's about a little bit at a time, and then over time, you just know how to do it without even thinking. So what is a way that you can be humble this week, that you can practice humility? Well, thanks everyone for joining us for another awesome Windsor Kids Online. We hope that you've had so much fun today. And as always, please send us videos or photos. We love to see you. We love to see what you're getting up to. So over to you, Dylan.
Thanks, Patsy. So now, guys, make some space in your living room. Grab a few instruments if you need to, or if you play an instrument already, like a guitar, the piano, drums, go absolutely nuts. We're going to end off with two more songs. The songs are Happy Day and Unshakable. I know it's a song that most of our Windsor kids know very well, so hope you guys have a lot of fun, and we'll be sure to see you back here next week. Have fun, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, happy day, you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same.
The greatest day in history. Death has beaten, you have rescued me. Sing it out, Jesus is alive. The empty cross, the empty grave, life eternal, you have won the day. Shout it out, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Oh, happy day, when you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed. When I stand in that place, free at last, meeting face to face, I am yours, Jesus, you are mine. Endless joy and perfect peace, earthly pain finally will cease. Celebrate, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Oh, happy day, when you wash my sin away. Oh, happy day, I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed. And oh, what a glorious day, what a glorious way, my Lord, that you have saved me. And oh, what a glorious day, what a glorious name, Jesus. Oh, happy day, you wash my sin away.